Good morning, Paul, and good morning, folks. I'm really keen to listen to Paul. He's going to ponder this morning market research and why should you do it. And this is a really important topic because people think once they're set up, they no longer need to do market research, and I'm not sure that's right. And so I'd like to hear from you, Paul. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And you sort of raise already, I think, a couple of facets to this. Market research certainly applies to startup businesses, and it's also equally important from my view is that it's equally important for existing businesses as well. One of the things that I would observe, so I might just touch on both of those briefly, Peter. The first case, a startup business. You and I have looked at swillions of business plans over the duration, and I'd observe that probably one of the weakest sections in a business plan is the market research, and the sort of market research, if it's done at all, will be what I call secondary market research. It comes from secondary sources. It comes from places like the ABS. It comes from industry associations. It comes from Google, and so on and so on. It's got the great virtue of being usually relatively inexpensive, but it's not actually designed to answer the question that you want foremost in your mind, which is my customers. How many people am I going to have come through the door? So secondary market research is useful, but my opinion is that primary market research is really what buttresses a business case. I'll give you an example of secondary market research. An industry which people are pointing to as one which is exciting and has potential is the kelp industry. I think it was in 1718 year, we imported $40 million worth of kelp and kelp-related products. I've seen similar sorts of statements made in business plans that if only we had 1% of that market, then that would mean that we have 400 Ks worth of business coming through the door. Now, the problem with that statement is, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't necessarily promise you a single customer. So yeah, it's a little bit of a sore point with me, Peter, this whole market research thing. So therefore, primary market research, yep, happy to do the secondary, very, very helpful in framing your business case. But gee whiz, you really want to be looking at the primary market research stuff, and that's really about asking people. It's in particular, it's asking customers if you're an existing business, if you're doing research for a startup. Goodness gracious, what we're talking about here is doing market research with people that potentially might be customers. There's one that I know that you favor a lot, Peter, which is doing focus groups. I think you've been involved in some.
Yes, I have, Paul, and some that you've started actually, and I learned well from the way you did it as well. I think you had one called How to Skin an Elephant, or which is no more than inviting some key people, important people to our business in for a lunch. And so for the cost of a tray of sandwiches, we were able to get information that they didn't even know they were giving us. But I agree with you, primary information, first-hand new information is better than secondary, which already exists, but that also means it's old.
Yes, absolutely. And it sort of begs the question, I think, Peter, which is, why don't people do more primary market research? If it's as simple as asking people, why don't they do it? Well, I mean, I can think of a few reasons. If you get a consultant to do it for you, that can be quite expensive stuff indeed. But that actually doesn't really stop you, the business owner or the intending business owner, to actually do the market research yourself, to actually ask the questions yourself. I've looked at that problem, the problem of, why is it that people don't do it themselves? And, sometimes people say, well, we don't have the time, we don't know how to do it. But the thing that I've found is the biggest blockage is that they find themselves, there's a fear of doing it, Peter. There's a fear of actually asking people, um, questions that they're perhaps afraid of rejection, or in some instances, they fear that well, we don't really have a product yet, so maybe we don't have to do it yet. You know, the point that I would make is, well, when you're actually doing market research, you're not trying to sell product as such. What you're trying to do is you're trying to better understand the needs of the customers or the customers to be. So I think that that can be a blockage, and I think that get your headspace right as to why you're doing it. Why we're doing it is to actually find out a little bit more about the marketplace and the needs of the marketplace. So I strongly encourage business owners to actually to do their market research, particularly doing the primary market research, and doing focus groups or asking questions of their customers or of their customers to be.
Yeah, you raised some really good points there, particularly with startups where people are so excited about their product, they can't believe that not everyone would buy it. And so it takes some time, as you know, to drill down with these clients to explain to them that it's not everyone will buy their product, and they need to work out which in that audience so they can target their product to suit that particular audience, so they're not casting seed on barren ground.
Yeah.
It really is important they do that. And
Sometimes,
particularly in business, the ongoing market research, sorry, Paul, there's two simple things, is the exit survey and the suggestion box. If you're afraid of bad press, you still need to know about it. And it's quite often from bad press or suggestions that for improvement that you can make those improvements.
yeah, very much so. So I think there's a message in there that if you're an existing business, one of your great assets is your customer base. So why aren't you asking them?
Yep.
Perhaps there's, and really when it comes down to it, the questioning is based around two concepts. One is, how are we going as a business? And the second one is, how can we get better? Those two questions, getting the answers direct from your customer base, very powerful stuff. As a matter of fact, I make the observation, Peter, that the ones that actually have strong views, and they may be negative views, or at least partly negative views, can be the most illuminating.
Very much so, and we're more likely to get complaints than congratulations, because people are just getting what they expected. They won't comment, but where they get something unexpected, they will. Both ways, actually. So if you do something really good, they'll comment on that. If you do something not so good, they'll comment on that. But we should be getting comment from all our clients. You mentioned two questions too. I like to use is, what did we do well, and what didn't we do so well? And that sort of can be a good gauge of how you're traveling.
Yeah.
People got it's really quite important that we continue to provide a service above and beyond. If we just provide what's expected, you can get that from anyone else that provides what is expected. So,
there's a very good reason why one does the market research. It's the trends keep changing. The needs of the marketplace keeps changing. These are important concepts. So, it's you don't need to take your eye off the ball for too long to find that you are overwhelmed by the changes in customer preference, and so therefore it's an important reason why to actually to keep your eye, to regularly do your market research. Just sort of finish with a final thought, and that is that a great place to start with your market research is something that I would encourage all people in business to do, is to to do effectively a competitor analysis, to look at your competitors, to actually work out what they're doing well, what they're not doing so well. That can certainly help frame how you actually approach connecting to your customers. So, yeah, with that final thought, Peter, yeah, I'll finish my little ponder for the day, and so thank you, Peter, and pass back to you.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for those wise words. It really, I can't endorse them strongly enough to continue to search your market. And your point about things changing, and that's becoming quicker and quicker when people are changing their buying habits, and that's cause for another ponder. But if anything we've raised today, folks, is of interest to you, Paul and I would love to be contacted to take this further if that's your want, and your subscription would also be appreciated. Thanks again, Paul. That was great.
Thank you, Peter.